Hey everybody, welcome to the Fractured Focus reaction to WWDC 2017. Happy Apple Day. I'm one of your hosts, Ben Gordon, and coming in live from the great state of Nebraska, the Apple man himself, Mr. Matt Swinehart. Matt, how you doing?
I own an Apple iPhone. I don't believe I'm an Apple guy yet.
Back in college, weren't you one of the guys, obviously since you were a graphic design major, that was always talking about Apple before? Well, I mean, most of us weren't using it, but you were pretty heavy into Apple back then. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, really heavy. I mean, major-wise, it was like all the graphic design classes I took, we took Apple. And you had to know the Apple operating system and stuff like that. And then I even remember using Apple IIs back in school.
Sure, everybody does. That's all that there was basically in school. And then when we were in college was right after Apple had almost gone bankrupt. And now they're looking to be the first $1 trillion company. And I'm literally looking at 4 Apple devices right now as I say this and we record this.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I say that, but what we have 4 iPhones in the house, iPad mini, soon to have either a iMac or a MacBook Pro.
Which we're going to talk about. It's funny when you stop and think about it. This entire show is made with Apple. We got the MacBook Air here. We're actually shoot this entire show on an iPhone camera. We're FaceTiming with an iPad, and then the whole video is edited and composited together with Final Cut Pro. So, thanks Apple. I guess we'll go ahead and take one episode to do a reaction about your stupid conference that you do every year. That's basically like your keynote address and your whatever. It was pretty cool. WWDC though. There was a lot of big stuff out there. We did a predictions and hopes a few days before. You actually hit some stuff right on the head that was pretty accurate, maybe in a different way, but you were actually pretty close. But let's go ahead and run through this. First of all, before we even go into the details and what we're excited about, what we didn't like, yada yada yada, what did you think of WWDC overall this year?
I thought an hour and a half of it was really good. There was some stuff in there. It's not in my wheelhouse.
This was a longer one than I remember in a long time.
2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Usually it's like an hour and a half, but this was.
They had a lot of stuff they announced too.
Well, you know what? Actually, we may as well jump into it from there because that was one of the first things where you could tell this was going to be a packed keynote, is because usually they spend the first 10 to 15 minutes going over stats on how well Apple's doing. You know, their market share, how well developers doing, and they literally said, we don't have time. There's going to be no updates. Apple's doing just fine.
Yeah.
And as soon as they said that, I'm thinking, great, there's going to be a lot of stuff. It didn't even occur to me it might go for 2 hours and 20 minutes, which was a long one. But how cool was that opening video they did of the Armageddon?
That commercial was awesome. It really was just phenomenal. Like, the tender, the guy's lifting the kettlebell or whatever it is. I was dying.
End of days, like, because
Farmville,
one guy unplugs all the apps. That was so traditional. If there's one thing Apple's known for besides its products, is they are marketing and advertising geniuses, and that was basically just one long ad that was just so awesome. And then before they even went into updates, I thought it was interesting how, God, I remember watching keynotes even in college when Apple was just starting to get back on their feet, and Steve Jobs first came back, and before they even got when they first announced OS 10. And when these WWDC things, which I'd still get a kick out of watching, I was just always fascinated by Steve Jobs and studying successful people like him and their mindset. But how much this conference has grown, that now, like, even to just get a seat at WWDC, they do a lottery for tickets. Maybe you get in, maybe you don't. They had almost 6,000 in attendance, and now we have coders like this kid that's Yuma that's 10 years old, that started when he was 6.
Yeah, I noticed that too. And I mean, like, the growth of the app market. 3 million new developers last year alone.
You know, that is one thing they even did talk about when we were in college, is that by the time, we're out there in the world, a lot of the jobs you're going to have don't even exist at that time. And then since then, other people I've seen speak, from Warren Buffett to Darren Hardy from the former publisher of Success Magazine to Richard Branson, have all kind of alluded to the future blue collar market, or for people that haven't gotten their educations yet, or want to take a different road or whatever it is, a lot of those jobs are going to be gone in the next couple decades. And the next kind of average job is actually going to be coding. So like as much, you're not going to need stockers at Walmart when all that's done with like Roombas and electronics and robots and stuff like that. You're not going to need all these car places like Tires Plus or whatever. I mean, maybe for tires or whatever, but when as cars, and this is going to take some time, like multiple decades, but when everything goes to electric, you don't need to work on the carburetor anymore or get an oil change. A lot of this stuff is going to disappear. And so there's going to be a big shift, and the people that can get ahead of that are going to do the best. The fact that now you can learn to code with an animated character on an iPad and make it fun for kids is just awesome. And this is perfect evidence of that. And I've even seen older women in their senior citizen ages start coding and now make apps. They had a woman that, what was it, in her 80s or whatever?
I think it was 82.
Yeah. That already got her first app out there too. But it's just cool to watch this proliferate. But let's go ahead and get into some of the updates. All right, enough of your incessant rambling, which is basically the tagline of the show. First of all, Apple TV, or more specifically tvOS, didn't get a new Apple TV. They did say we're going to hear more about it later this year. You know it's going to be in the September.
4K.
Yeah. You know we're going to get the 4K Apple TV at the September one for the iPhone, right?
Well, they did mention that they're moving that direction.
Right, exactly. So whether it's at the iPhone announcement in September or they have a separate event, which they do every once in a while in October, it's definitely, wouldn't you agree, we're definitely getting a 4K Apple TV this year.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. by home. I mean, they've added some huge providers, and 4K they're going to have to include.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know how much 4K content Amazon Prime has.
Right.
But you know that's the direction they're going.
Yep, exactly. But they did announce the rumored Amazon Prime deal did go through, so they're finally going to have the Amazon Prime video app on the Apple TV. And I'm assuming that means Amazon is going to start selling Apple TVs again off of the Amazon store. So that's kind of cool. They didn't give us a time frame.
Pretty fickle.
They just said later this year. Next, I guess we mention this. I just don't really care much about the Apple Watch. It's cool. I have no desire to have one right now at this point. Maybe if it was $100, maybe $150, but $250, $300 and up from there, I don't care.
I know a couple of people with them.
Mm-hmm. It looks
and
cool.
They really do like them.
It looks nice, but I'm not gonna. When I get like a text message,
I don't wear a watch.
Yeah, I don't either. But I might
anymore,
if I had a reason to. But when I get an alert, I hear 3 dings. Goes off of my phone, goes off of my iPad, and then it also goes off of my Mac. Yeah, but this way the alerts go right to your, great, now I have a 4th. I don't care. Some people, I'm sure that's hugely beneficial for. It's just not in my wheelhouse, at least not.
Can I leave the phone at home yet? That's the big thing.
I went running today, and I have to have at least something on my device. See, that would be good for the running, just having the music on and not having to carry my phone around with the music, which I'm doing right now. So
you get the AirPods and then the Apple Watch.
I'd like to get the AirPods this year. At first, I made fun of them. Now I'm looking at them; they look really cool. And the customer satisfaction rating on them is 98%. People love them.
Huge.
Anyway. WatchOS, new faces, more stuff for workouts, and they're opening up more stuff for Bluetooth and NFC. Is there anything else you wanted to go in there? Whatever.
No.
Cool. Moving on. Let's go on to some stuff
that
we're actually interested and excited about. First of all, interesting name, macOS High Sierra.
Yeah. I don't see why not.
Yeah. I mean, it's not un-Apple-like. I didn't expect it. I thought we'd get a different name. But usually when Apple, I'm trying to remember it because they went from lion to mountain lion. But whenever they usually do something, and from leopard to snow leopard, anytime they use the past year's name and just alter it a little bit is usually because there's more under-the-hood improvements than there are features that they put out. So it's more like a tune-up and more efficient and under-the-hood type of stuff, which it seemed like this kind of was because there wasn't a whole bunch of new features they're added. There was a lot of stuff that was under the hood.
Yeah, a lot of under-the-hood stuff.
Yeah. Not that there wasn't any features, just not as much as like a big rollout. some of
no
the stuff.
new product launch.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, they
other than
got
what we'll get to later.
yeah, the Safari autoplay blocking. I am super excited about that.
That yes.
That drives
Please.
me nuts, and I am a user of Safari on the Mac. I just like the fact that it syncs with all my browsers for everything else. It is really fast. You know, the browser is really fast, and I don't know. I like it. It's minimalist. It gets out of the way. I'm not saying that other browsers aren't great. Also, I just like using Safari on the Mac, so I'm pumped about this. Intelligent tracking prevention, not necessarily for ad blocking, but they really made a point of machine learning that they're tying into everything, which a lot of analysts were predicting Apple better come out strong with that, because with Google I/O and Amazon and Facebook, this last year, all talking about what they're doing with this vastly powerful machine learning that can do things that, you know, we can almost not comprehend. Apple kind of had to come out strong with, well, what are you guys doing for your machine learning? And I think that they did that pretty well in the show.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on the intelligent tracking prevention? You work at PayPal, and you mentioned that might be an issue for people on websites. How would that work?
Well, no, I guess my concern with that is it's not just PayPal. Other websites use it. It's security-based stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So what a lot of them want to see is they want to see that device has been there before. They want to recognize the IP.
Cookies.
They want to do all of these things so that when a person logs in from that device, you know, say you used it in the morning and you want to use it for lunch, to buy your lunch, they want to make it as easy to get in there as possible.
Sure.
Now, if you're having to re-log in for everything, it's taking that ease of use away,
right?
Which drives users away.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of companies have started relying on knowing your device, recognizing your device, however they're doing that, whether that's with cookies, whether that's with cache, whatever it might be. When you start taking those things and blocking them on the user end, it just can cause security issues or security concerns ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
My concern is how like where I work as PayPal, how they're going to react to it.
Yep. Do you think that that's more of a big deal on the computers, or is PayPal? I have no idea. PayPal usage much more prevalent on mobile devices.
It is much more on mobile,
because this is just for High Sierra on the computer, right? This isn't for. They didn't say anything about intelligent tracking prevention on Safari on the iOS at all.
Well, and it could be entirely different.
Yeah, I think it is, because the mobile is much more locked down. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I've got the PayPal app on my phone, but can't you also log into PayPal with now your thumbprint? They enabled Touch ID.
You can. Yep, Touch ID.
Yeah,
yep.
Which is just awesome. Because based on that, I'm guessing I would hope that it wouldn't make that big of a dent on however PayPal processes that, since I'm assuming most of it's mobile and that's already walled off, and you got the thumbprint option there. Anyway.
Well, ultimately, a lot of this stuff, other companies are going to have to be reactive to.
Right.
Because PayPal's not the only one. I mean, Wells Fargo has it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of other banks are using it. So depending on what changes are starting to be made on devices that we want people to access our product from, we have to be reactive at that point.
It's a catch-22, isn't it? Because I love that the example they use. You ever notice when you're looking at a bike or you're shopping for one, you don't even complete the purchase, but then that's following you around to every website? I mean, I see that on Facebook all the time. What the hell? Yeah. I was just looking at something like this the other day. I don't like that, you know? But how do you fix that without also having other complications that you're right, everyone's going to have to be reactive and just work around it? It's almost an arms race thing.
Yeah, because I remember the last 2 weekends I've looked at NOS and
you start seeing ads everywhere,
and I'm like, yeah, and that's all I'm seeing now.
Yeah.
So I'm like, talking about clickbait. I mean, it's like, oh, you got a better deal?
Yeah.
So yeah. Advertising dollars. It's gonna be interesting how it affects the advertising dollars.
It's kind of
there's a lot of revenue.
It's an arms race, you know. Advertisers have to adapt, and then our need and desire for security and privacy from companies like Apple and other ones keep pushing back. And I think we're just going to have this constant pendulum for the next few decades until they figure out better ways to do it. I just think it's a natural evolution of it. But anyway, I just thought that was interesting. Photos, faces sync, cool, I guess. I don't use faces much. I mean, I've got the Photos app here on the Mac, which syncs with my iPad and my iPhone, and the fact that it can look and identify faces and match them up and look, and you can find pictures by their faces is cool. Do you use that much?
I don't. I don't take a lot of pictures with mine. My wife does.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be something.
Yeah,
that
she might like
benefits
it.
her.
I'm obviously there's a lot of people that will love this. Just didn't really appeal to me much. Third-party photo print publishing, that is cool. I've seen that. I've thought about doing that, and I never remember that Apple makes it really easy to go into the Photos app on a Mac and take pictures that you want and then get a custom. It'll actually print them out commercially in very good quality. You can get books. You can get calendars made, all that stuff in very high quality, and they do it very affordably and very cheap. That's cool.
We've done that with Shutterfly before.
Yeah, it's cool.
We made like a Swinehart's 2016 book.
Yeah,
and gave it to the grandparents.
That's cool. Mm-hmm.
So I mean that part of it is really nice. When we get to the iPad, I mean I'm thinking that if with the new tasking and stuff with the iPad. It could become really simple.
Oh, man.
If Shutterfly does their app right.
I can't wait till we talk about that because I'm pumped to talk about that. New file system. I know that this is more of a tech thing and more of a if you're more of a tech head, you would understand how important this is. But getting a brand new file system is a very big deal. I mean, remember when we were kids and they moved from FAT to FAT16 and then FAT32 and then NTFS? And most people don't even know what the hell that is. Because I mean, to an average user, it doesn't look any different to them when they use a computer. They can't tell any difference. But the features that are under the hood and what that can do for the system is huge. Here's something that I think is just so monumental that they're probably talking about all the time in higher education for people that are coding and stuff. Is that we have already had the single biggest transfer to a file system in mass by a large margin that went without a hitch in the history of computers ever just a few months ago. And that was with iOS 10.3. Because when you did 10.3, it changed your entire iPhone or iPad to the Apple file system. So everybody doesn't even know that happened, you know? But how many billions of devices did that? Or like hundreds of million, I guess I should say, of iPhone only, that went off without a hitch, silently, and nobody even knew about it. That's crazy to me when you think about it.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I obviously didn't hear anything about it.
That's what I mean. You wouldn't know. I watch like Mac Break Weekly, from people that have been on Clear Channel and stuff like that all the time, and they were excited and doing the betas for the new Apple file system and what it was going to do. And 10.3 finally rolled it out. That's why that update actually took longer than the other little dot increments instead of a full featured release. But all I keep thinking about is, man, nobody even knows this happened. But they just switched hundreds of millions devices' entire file system without a hitch. All at once. That's crazy to me. It probably is easier to do it for those kind of devices than it is a computer, though, I guess, if you think about it.
Yeah, definitely. Because, I mean, if I'm thinking about it, if I'm a photographer and I have all of these things saved on my Mac Pro, and all of a sudden the file formatting starts changing, maybe I don't use, the Apple product. Right. And it's like all of a sudden I can't find my stuff because I'm searching for JPEGs or whatever I might be saving them in.
Mm-hmm. They didn't tell us. Yeah. They said it was going to be the default option. By just saying that automatically leads you to believe that you're going to have a choice whether or not you migrate to the Apple file system, because I'm sure for people that depend on their computer for production, for coding, for whatever it is, you're right. You can't lose anything. You can't have stuff go wrong. Yeah. They're not going to be doing this right away from day one.
Start changing pathways, and next thing you know, you can't access anything.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, from a production standpoint, from a photography standpoint, that would be huge.
Yeah,
that's revenue that you're taking from
when
people.
Your computer's your livelihood. You don't mess around. It's the same reason people that are in, like say video production as a career, you don't just upgrade the operating system or even the version of, let's say, Final Cut or Adobe Premiere when the new one comes out right away. Ever, you never do that. You're very cautious. You wait. This is still working. Let people fix out the bugs. Maybe try it on your test machine first. More selective of it. But that's just cool that we're actually getting, it is a big deal, a completely brand new file system that is, like they said, tailored a lot more towards things and abilities we never had back in the day, because now everything's moved to flash storage for the most part. And something that you and I are probably more excited about than anybody watching this, we're getting HEVC, which stands for High Efficiency Video Coding, H.265.
Yeah. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, Ben is probably jumping out his couch.
Oh man, this is awesome. For those of you that don't even know what the hell that is, just about every video that you ever watch on the internet, period, right now is what you'd call, it uses the standard H.264, which just means it's just the standard for encoding that's really good compression and reducing the file size without you being able to tell a visible difference. So everything on Blu-ray is H.264. Every video over the internet is H.264.
Anything you watch on a mobile device.
Yes, everything on a mobile device is H.264. Now that we're moving to 4K, 4K is not just twice as big file size as high def 1080p. It's 4 times because it's 1080p times 4. So the file sizes are huge if you just continue to use the same codec. HEVC H.265 is a much more mathematically, you need a beefy processor to be able to pump out a lot of math because the compression is much bigger. But the picture quality is the same. It looks amazing. So you can get a movie in 4K for maybe just around, like maybe just over twice the size of a 1080p Blu-ray movie or whatever, instead of 4 times. And you know, you might be thinking, who cares what? Well, that's a big deal for all the video that's going over the internet 24/7.
Yeah, servers. Yeah, you're talking about servers.
That's an incredibly big deal, and it, 4K.
You're going to see a lot more 4K content get pushed.
Yes,
when this goes wide, because they don't have to buy brand new server banks. They don't have to open a new facility like Google's building all these server banks here in Nebraska and Iowa.
Yep. This is just a really big deal to get 4K out there because there isn't going to be the same transition from everywhere that everybody's going to adopt it in a few years' time like there was from 1080p to 4K, simply because you don't have all these news TV organizations, whatever, people needing to move to 4K because it's too hard to get a 4K, which is a very big file size stream, into your house over the internet, which is what everybody's moving to streaming most of your video over the internet. You have to have a minimum 25 megabits per second for one stream of 4K, and that's at not very good quality with a lot of compression. So this is going to help this stuff. Now, here's what's interesting. The HEVC...
It'll push gigabit internet.
Yes, I hopefully.
It'll drive it.
Which is going to take a lot of infrastructure doing, but I can't wait till that happens. Now, this H.265 encoding decoding built into the operating system is still a software decode. It's not hardware. Unless like they said, the 2016 Macs do have hardware decode. I think they said, or was it this year, the 2017? I thought they said 2016 too. But the new Macs do have hardware decoding, which is a big deal because if you don't have hardware decoding and you're just using software decoding, it's trying to use that processor to clock the hell up to just try to do all this math instead of having a little dedicated chip, and it will heat up your computer. You can cook eggs on it, and it will drain batteries like crazy. So it'll be interesting to see which.
I think they said the new iPads.
Yeah, but which one? Where's the cutoff? Is it this year's? Is it last year's?
It's this year's.
Okay.
I think it's this year's iPads.
Yeah, it'll be interesting
release
to see how that works. Well, we'll get into that. I guess we may as well do that right now. This fits. If we would all agree that they're going to be launching a 4K Apple TV later this year, obviously they're doing all this stuff first was smart, because if they're going to put out a 4K Apple TV, there is no way they're not going to start selling 4K movies on iTunes. There's no way. Of course they would do that. They would have to, right? Or else why would you even push the device? Here's a 4K Apple TV. We don't have any content for it, but I'm sure you can find something. There's no way.
Yeah.
But
go to a third party and get it.
Right. Right now, I can't watch a 4K movie, even from iTunes, on my iPhone. It couldn't handle it. I don't think there's hardware. Maybe there's hardware decoding in iPhone 6. We're gonna have to wait for someone to tell us. Maybe in the forums that's testing this stuff out. We don't know what chips are in there, if they could do it or not. But until there's hardware decoding, or at least software decoding, you could only download a 4K, just the Apple TV. I couldn't put it on this Mac or that iPad or whatever, and that becomes hard, because if I get a 1080p movie from iTunes, I can play it on any device, no problem, because they all have the H.264 chips in them. They could read it, no problem. I might I might not need the full 1080p to watch it on my iPhone, but it'll play it and will look fine on the screen without having to have multiple different kinds of file types. So it looks like they are laying the groundwork so that they'll be able to have 4K content coming from the iTunes store and have multiple areas that it can go to instead of just one device, which would be a 4K Apple TV. But it'll be interesting to see. And clearly, if you're looking at a new device, whether it's a tablet, a computer, whatever it is in the future, I would definitely say get one that can do hardware decoding of H.265. It'll just save you effort down the road big time. Yeah. And that's the end of our nerd talk for now.
And it'll extend the life of the device too.
Big time. And battery power is going to make a big difference as H.265 content becomes more big out there. Metal 2, which is just their API for doing graphics, the same way DirectX is for Windows. And looks like they're putting a lot of effort behind it because they're even going in finally on VR. Thank God.
Yeah, I was gonna say. This has got to make you happy.
Yeah, everybody was talking about how Mac can't do VR. They don't make a computer good enough. What? Look how fast this the Mac Pro is. That's like $4,000. It's not just about how fast it is. It's got to be fast in the right places. You know, it's got to be able to render something and get it all the way to your eyeballs twice, 90 frames a second, so that your movements, it stays exactly where it is. And that's not, you don't just get that because you have a, quote, fast computer. It's got to have no bottlenecks and be just fast enough. And they're going to allow external graphics cards. So even if you could have a MacBook Pro laptop 13-inch entry-level model and then have this big box next to you that you could just plug into. So whenever you need to do some serious video editing or program writing or VR, you got it there. But if I was going to get a laptop just because they're now going to support this, there's no reason I would overdo a laptop with power. Well, I mean, why? I would much rather have the portability and then have this device for when I wanted to edit video. And there's a second reason, but we haven't gotten to that yet, and that's the iPad thing that we'll get to.
All right.
Because I wouldn't have made that suggestion, at least that's just for me, until these other stuff that we're going to get to. We'll get there. Anyway, so that's the stuff for High Sierra. Pretty freaking sweet, wouldn't you agree?
Oh, yeah.
iMac announcements. Better displays, which they always keep making their displays better, but it's so funny because they wouldn't even need to. I mean, everybody would say, why aren't you improving the displays? But let's be honest, Mac displays blow everything else out of the water by a large margin.
Yeah. Even watching the WWDC on my TV, I was disappointed because I started watching it on my phone. And I'm like, my TV fucking sucks. And I got a 1080p Sony. I mean, it's not a joke. But it's still not. I still wasn't. I'm like, I got an iPhone 6, just blowing away my 47-inch television.
Matt cares so much about how their displays look that they blow everything else out of the water. We got an iMac for my mother a little over a year ago, and she would still just be in awe staring at the screen, like how it's such a big jump.
They're beautiful.
Yeah, she had no idea there was that kind of a difference when it comes to screens, though, for computers. Blew her away. Finally got the Kaby Lake processors. We were all expecting that, right? They were hoping for them last year, so we finally got those. H.265 hardware decoding for the new models, of course. I mean, you got to have that. In fact, I think, they must have had them on last year's model because if they had the 4K and 5K iMac last year, they would have had to have the hardware decoding on there.
I think they may have had a 4K and a 27. But I don't think they've ever had a 5K.
Maybe, I guess the processors are so fast in those with the graphics card that they could do it software and it would still be fine. You wouldn't, I guess, who cares at that point when your computer's that powerful? Doubled the RAM, SSDs 50% faster. Do you know how fast SSDs have gotten? I mean, let's be honest. The biggest jump is when you go from spinning platter hard drive to SSD. It's like getting a whole new computer. The processor doesn't even make that big of a deal compared to having an SSD versus not. Way bigger jump on the SSD jump. But Apple never rests in their laurels, and they keep getting faster. Like when they started, and you can get an SSD that was like, what, 300-400 megabytes, not bits, megabytes per second. And now they're up to like over a gigabyte per second. You're like, do you even need faster than that? That's crazy to me. 50% faster. Added 2 USB-C ports. Let's give it up to their adding and not taking everything away.
Yeah. Yes. Thank God.
I almost wonder if we're still going to get new MacBooks next year. They probably won't. But, before the show started, I was thinking there's no way we could get MacBook Pros, even though a lot of people complained about having no extra ports. Because they didn't have enough time to make all new models. It would take at least a year. And we just got these in last fall. Yeah. So they would have to be just chip upgrades. But they added 2 USB-C ports. Radeon, usually on the entry-level iMacs, you have like the Intel that's part of the motherboard, good enough processor, like that's in this iMac that runs stuff fine. It's not like it's as slow as like just the MacBook. But if you want really a hardcore video card that can do a lot more graphic intensive and programming processes, you'd want to get a discrete graphics card in there that it switches to when it needs to. And that's now standard on all the 4K iMacs. Those Radeon Pros, some of them are even good enough for VR, which we're about to get to. In fact, the 5K model, even the standard baseline, is VR ready right off the bat without any upgrades. I'm sure you could do it with the 4K iMac too, as long as you got the right graphics card in there. John Knoll from ILM. How cool was that demo from Industrial Light and Magic?
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah. Knowing that now it's more expensive to get an iMac for VR, but if you're going to get an iMac, you're probably getting an iMac not just for VR. You're getting an iMac because you love Apple computers and you love the way Macs run. But now knowing that you can now have the VR capability without sinking in a whole bunch of extra cost gets me really excited. When you were talking, after they showed this, I guess we should talk about some of this other stuff first. Then for the MacBooks, they moved them to Kaby Lake 2. Again, I still don't think they have the newest chipset that allows for more than 16 gigabytes of low voltage memory. They can do the ones that could go up to 32 gigabytes of RAM in laptops if you use the same RAM that you use in desktops, but then your 10-hour battery life goes down to 2 hours. There's no way they're going to do that.
And the way that they've changed the RAM and even changed the hard drives in those with the Retina displays is a lot different. Than the standard PC.
Yep, big time. Faster SSDs, faster graphics cards. Entry-level MacBook Pro dropped to $1299, which I thought was cool because, to be honest with you, if I'm going to get a MacBook Pro, it's going to be the entry-level one because I can get a faster processor put in there, but I do not want the touch bar. I want the one with buttons. And anything I get with a MacBook Pro for everything I do, from video editing to even coding applications or whatever, that MacBook Pro is just fine. I don't need overkill. I'm not doing 3D graphics at Industrial Light and Magic where I need a $3,000 to $4,000 laptop. Like, that would just be just fine for me. I was excited when they dropped it to $1299, but then I checked the specs. They dropped it to $1299 because they switched it from a 256 gigabyte solid state hard drive to 128
gigabytes. Yeah. I saw that. I saw that too. I checked yesterday.
So whatever.
And again today.
But to be honest with you, with more stuff that we're getting to, I'm probably not going to get another laptop.
You know what it did do? In case you're in the market for refurbished, it dropped the price of the 2016 2.7 gigahertz with 256 gigabytes and 8 megabytes of RAM or 8 gigs of RAM.
I think you're talking about the 2015. The 2016s were the all USB-C. Remember that was last fall? 2015s are the ones that still had all the ports. Isn't that what you're talking about?
It still has the MagSafe.
Yeah, that's the 2015, late 2015. Yeah, that's those.
Okay.
Yep, that's still the one that I would get if I was going to get a MacBook Pro.
Yeah, well, in the refurbished Mac store, they're $929 right now.
Yeah, and refurbished Mac is the same thing as new. I mean, every Consumer Reports to everything. Apple puts them through the same inspection process that refurbished for a new one. So you're basically getting a new. I always tell people, if you're going to buy Apple, check and get refurbished directly from Apple if you can first. Then they announced. You were kind of right. You thought that they might actually mention the modular Mac Pro. They said was going to be coming out not this year. We didn't get that, but we did get something I wasn't expecting. I just thought we'd get really great iMacs, which we did. But then they announced this iMac Pro, which was just a beast.
That thing is a monster. No and I'm glad that they did the dark color on it because it deserves it.
Yeah,
the most powerful Mac ever made.
Oh my god, sexy as hell, mouth watering. It is so much.
It is.
Let's go ahead and read through some of the specs. So for those of you that are tech oriented that get off on this stuff, if you're not aware, check out these specs. Obviously, you know it's 5K. The most powerful Mac they've ever made by far. Workstation class. I like how they said we're going to do an 8-core Xeon processor. But you know what? We're also going to give the option for 10-core. And you know what? We're also going to give the option for 18-core Xeon processor.
Oh, shit.
This thing
Look for your power bill to go up.
Yeah, this thing is so fast, it can see through time. Radeon Vega graphics, which are workstation class, newest high end. This is like way bigger than just VR graphics baseline. They mentioned teraflops. To give you an idea of teraflops, if you want to do like the Oculus Rift and the HTC Vive recommended specs. Now this is just one way to gauge it. You still need to have the right equipment with the right buses and speeds to hit all this stuff. But their teraflops, I think, is something around like 4.2 for VR. This is 11. So, and a VR rated PC is a beast. You can imagine just based on that number what this is. 22 teraflops in half precision mode, whatever. Up to 128 gigabytes of RAM.
Yeah, because I need that when I'm surfing the internet.
You know, when they're saying all these specs and you text me, I think during it saying like, oh my God, I want this. I'm thinking there is in no universe would you ever tap into the kind of power that this is, especially for the bang for the buck. When you get to that level is so much higher for the money for what you're getting. I agree. It's awesome and sexy as hell, but we would never utilize something like this.
Never touch. Yeah. I'd use about 10% of the actual capacity.
Ever.
But I mean, it's just like a Lamborghini.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going to go 200 miles an hour in it.
But damn,
doesn't mean I don't want one.
Yeah, I still want one. This looks amazing. Up to 4 terabytes of solid state drive. This is what you can use for your home media server, for your Plex server.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need anything else.
This thing needs to be able to translate or transcode 16K future videos 30 years from now.
Yeah, 16K. Yeah,
in real time.
Yeah, holograms. Yeah. This is actually running the holodeck on the Enterprise right now.
Oh my God. 4 Thunderbolt 3 spots, 10 gigabyte Ethernet. First Mac to actually have that. I don't know any other equipment that has a single port, 10 gigabyte Ethernet port out there. This is like
that would have to be an internal network that's running at 10. Mm-hmm. Because can you even get anything that large?
Oh, yeah. I mean, a lot of NASA's and other computers will have dual ports that they'll aggregate together for 10 gigabyte. I mean, it's a protocol. It's a standard. And I'm sure that's
I know most NASA's you get 2 or you get 4. Mm-hmm. So then you got that, but
yeah, I mean,
from a 10 standpoint.
What IEEE standard, so I'm sure few places have it, but the people that do would really need high throughput. Anything that's going to be like a video bank server company that needs to, move files back and forth. I'm sure they've already got
Industrial Lights and Magic.
Exactly.
I'm sure they have it.
Yeah, exactly. So there's uses, but this
Rockstar
is again,
Games,
this is
like that.
For basically nobody watching the show. Is this computer for? I mean, unless you just want to throw out money because you got lots of it and you can. No one's going to hit this threshold. $7,000.
Like you got $5,000 laying around.
Yeah. And that's what it starts at. Should we customize and see what it would go up to? Anyways, the parts are the equivalent of a $7,000 PC, but they're going to be selling it for $5,000. That's usually what Apple does. They go for a premium to very high end, but then they offer it at a way better price than you would get something else. Yeah. So people and you're going to hear a lot of people say, well, yeah, but it's $5,000. Yes. But it is a really great value for those people. It's not for you. I would still.
It's Apple quality.
Oh my God! And I'm sorry, but after you get used to the Mac OS and you love it, you don't ever want to go back to Windows. It pisses you off.
The OS, the hardware,
the security.
You're probably not going to be replacing the power supply in this thing,
right?
In the other workstations, the motherboard's going to end up going bad at some point.
Yep.
The power supply is going to go out at some point. I mean, there's all these component aspects of it that you're going to have to replace, and you have to replace them with the same components.
Right. Yep.
So,
I can't check the price specs on it because again, it's not available till December, so they're not even putting other prices. They're just saying starting $49.99.
Yeah.
Never gonna buy one. Never gonna need it. But damn, it's sexy. That's cool as hell.
Maybe in 20 years. Is like a nostalgia thing. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'll pick one up.
Sure. Yeah.
Like you would an old NES right now.
Right. Yeah. If I was going to buy a computer, well, we're going to get back to that. Again, I've already hinted at that. Okay, let's jump into iOS 11. When I first started seeing all the stuff they showed for iPhone and then they ended, I started thinking, wow, okay. I mean, there's some stuff in there, but I thought this was going to be a big update. And then they showed the stuff for the iPad. And the Apple Store that was updated shortly after the keynote, so I'm going to pull that up here, I think sums it up just perfectly for their iOS 11. Damn it, come on. What do I manually have to? See, most of my browsing I do on the iPad. Can I move this over? Here we go. iOS 11. Giant step for iPhone, a monumental leap for iPad. I think that's pretty accurate, wouldn't you say? Let's start in order the way they talked about with the iPhone first. Messages, getting some apps. Or no, I'm sorry. It's already had apps. It's making them easier to get to. They did the pay what is it? The pay cash card and person to person is pretty big. Does PayPal have an app built in too where you can just do it person to person through the Messages app?
Yeah, and then we have Venmo as well.
So okay, cool. Because it's so funny. As soon as I remembered you work for
peer-to-peer sharing.
Say what now?
The peer-to-peer payments is huge.
Yeah,
it's a huge segment. There's a lot of growth in it right now.
Yep. And, it's interesting is this Apple Pay thing is cool, but it's never going to – I just think that it's just for Apple. You know what I mean? Not Android, not other phones and stuff out there too.
Yeah, they're definitely limiting themselves there by the device. But by them getting in retail locations like they are –
which –
they're opening the windows.
The retail locations that are in isn't just an Apple Pay standard. That's just NFC payment standard. You know what I mean? If it's NFC payments with your tap-to-go card, that's the same thing that the iPhone uses. So it's not like you need more equipment for Apple Pay than you do for any. That's just NFC standard.
But the thing is, it's easy use.
Yes.
So adoption and stuff like that makes it very easy.
Yep. Siri's getting a new voice. Voices. Much more realistic sounding.
Yes, and no.
What do you mean? How so?
Still, I heard the difference, but it wasn't. To me, it really wasn't that big of a deal.
Well, you remember
obviously,
what
I don't want this robot voice just talking to me.
Sure. You remember what Siri sounded like the first year Siri came out? It's like you can tell it's recordings from a person. They're taking the phonetic parts or whatever. But it definitely kind of sounded like a robot. And every year it got better and better and better.
Yeah.
Because I use Siri a lot. I've got CarPlay in the car. So, when I plug in my phone, it takes over the dashboard and stuff like that. So I use the Siri voice a lot. So I hear it a lot. It sounds much more fluent and like a regular voice than it did when it first started. But you can still tell from time to time this is a robot voice. Now, we only heard a couple sentences on the stage. But it sounded much more realistic voice.
Yeah, I guess I want to hear it in its full thing.
Sure. Yep.
Because the Siri I have on my phone is the Australian Siri.
Yeah, we don't know. I'm assuming we're going to have multiple regions and dialects and stuff like that too.
I think they've already said that US, UK, and Australia are already getting it.
Yep. Well, we'll have to see which voice they use for Australia, mate.
Well, I have the female Australian. I call her Sheila, even though she goes by Siri.
Siri translation, where she'll say it out loud for you. That's awesome.
That is.
That's really cool. And H.265 HEVC encode, which obviously just means that they're going to allow software decode, because if it has you can't force in a hardware chip. It either has it or it doesn't. And I don't know why they would mention this if it didn't mean they were going to throw in software decode for multiple devices, even if you don't have the hardware, right?
The hardware's been sitting there dormant the whole time.
Right, because they said that now you're going to be able to start shooting video and even pictures with the H.265 codec, which is going to be much smaller file size for the same quality. But that would mean
the camera set up for that? Because they're going to have to update the cameras on the XI phones.
That's what I mean. Like the 7 I know has H.265 hardware built in. I don't know about the 6S, and I don't know the 6.
I don't think does.
Because I'm curious that if you're going to shoot video to send to somebody, but they can't decode the H.265, then do you start to fragment the market? Clearly, Apple's already thought about this and solved it, or they wouldn't be doing it. I'm curious, does it get transcoded in the cloud before it gets to them? Does that mean I can't send it to people that are not in iMessage, like Android people, because there's nowhere for it to stop and get transcoded? But does it know and will only do H.265? Well, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how this is going to work.
H.265, can it be scaled? Can it still play as an H.264?
Separate codecs. They work completely independently of each other. They have nothing to do with each other.
That could definitely be an issue.
Now, obviously, again, Apple's already thought about this, and I'm sure when they talk about their future rollout, my guess is they're mentioning this because they know now that they've started to, at least last year, if not years before, roll out devices with H.265, but they haven't turned on the chips yet because other devices that don't have the chip don't have a way to play that stuff yet. But if they put out this iOS 11 to all these devices and now they can play it and just use the processor and the software decode, you've just solved that problem. That's my guess is what this is. Because why else would you mention it as a part of iOS 11 if it's a hardware thing?
And I know they showed the slides a couple of times throughout the keynote, but I was wondering which devices are now obsolete.
Well, they did mention which devices are getting the upgrade and which aren't. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, so I mean that's pretty much it. I mean, you see which ones are going to get it, but it's like now are all the iMacs that were built in 2012 no longer?
Oh, you mean for High Sierra? Yeah, I'm not sure about the computer. Anyone that could do Sierra can do High Sierra, and anyone that had 10 can also do 11. So I think that starts with the 5S. No, wait a minute. 10 was also with the 4S. I think why didn't I just pull this up? I want to say that
4S is going to be supported after.
I don't think the 4S. I mean, that is getting so old now. I can't imagine that. It was the first 64-bit phone, so maybe. Let's go to iOS 11 and see which devices are getting it. I want to say that it's going to go back as far as the 5S. That's my guess. Because I think I saw that somewhere.
That would be my guess as well.
Let's go down the very bottom. Here we go. Yep, 5S.
Because I know Margaret has the iPad Mini.
Mm-hmm. Which generation?
The first generation, and it's no longer supported.
Yep.
Now.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's get into that because we're going to start talking about some iPads as well. We got to finish this. Okay, so H.265. People watching this are probably like, I don't care about this nerd shit. Well, we have an average of 12 viewers. The fact that you're even with us thus far, we won.
Yeah.
We already win.
Congratulations. We love you.
Thanks for watching. Control Center getting a big change. Looks a lot more modular and separated. And, one thing that I am excited about, because I didn't think it was that. At first, I'm like, okay, you move where some of the buttons are. I really don't care. They moved, because now you have multiple pages on the Control Center, when you pull it up.
Yeah.
You have the original controls. The next page over is your media. Next page over, if you have HomeKit, is your HomeKit devices. We have all three. Moved them all to one page. I like that. I don't like having to navigate through multiple pages when I just want to pull up the Control Center. So that's great. I'm actually pumped about that. Screen recording. You can now record your footage from if you wanted to do a Let's Play or here's how I use my phone. That's kind of cool. Lock screen and notification screen are now one. I know some people were complaining about that. I think it simplifies it, just makes it one screen. Call it whatever you want. Who cares? It's just one screen. I think that's smart. Maps getting an upgrade, catching up with, because Google Maps has had lane guidance for over a year now, which I've always been jealous because I use Apple Maps most of the time because, again, it works with my CarPlay in the dash. But now getting lane guidance, super excited for. And it's cool that they're going to start having in-floor maps of malls and airports. That's awesome.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty awesome.
Yeah,
too.
That's really cool. And from I was reading on some message boards last night of people that had already downloaded the developer beta for iOS 11 and were testing some stuff out. It's always kind of like Christmas for us. We get to find from the people that are testing this stuff out. Okay, what'd you find? What else did you get in there? That the maps data that it's using is much more up to date and accurate than even the maps from iOS 10, which is kind of interesting. Different, more recent pictures from the satellite and all that kind of stuff, which is usually how they roll it out and segment that stuff. That's cool. Shows your speed limit now when you're driving. Can't even just pay attention to that. Too usually busy sending tweets and checking Tinder.
Yeah. Traditionally, I have my phone up like this, and the speed is whatever I set it at.
Right. I mean, I usually have my selfie stick hanging out the window while I'm trying to...
like Zoolander. I can see that, Ben.
Yep. Do not disturb while driving. At first, I kind of laughed at this, but the more I think about it, I like how they're being proactive and really taking a responsibility role that I don't think that they have to do. If I had teenage kids, I would make sure, and you could probably lock it down with parental controls, this is on. While you're moving, unless you're plugged into a CarPlay that can tell that you're You know, what I love about CarPlay is when you plug it in to the CarPlay, it's safety first. So you cannot read text on that screen. It will not let you. It will speak them to you, and you can respond with your voice, but it will not put up a lot of stuff you need to read up there. It's very safety oriented. So this is really cool.
No, and you got to realize with something like that, I mean, I think this is wonderful. I don't have teenagers yet, but this is first generation stuff.
Right.
So as things evolve from this, there will be advances. And the fact that they're taking the step to do it, it's wonderful.
Yep. Completely agree. Added speakers to HomeKit. Oh, added speakers to HomeKit and a new protocol called AirPlay 2. And this plays into, well, we'll get to that. We'll come back to those. App Store completely redesigned. Cool, whatever. I really don't care. I don't.
I go there when I want something.
Yeah, exactly. I don't browse in the App
easy
Store.
To find something.
If I'm going there, I'm going with something I already know I want to download. But whatever.
That's just it. I'm not shopping at the App Store.
I know.
Time to shop at the App Store.
Yeah.
No.
Phil Schiller was right. I did do that when you first get your iPhone and you go into the App Store for the first time and you browse around, but not since then. I just don't do that anymore. A lot of machine learning that they're putting into this. Apple, always takes their Apple. We don't want your data. We don't want to know about you. They're really like basically slapping Google in the face saying that's how they make their money, not us.
Yeah.
Machine learning on device, not from a profile from a company that's going to store your information and learn all about you. They keep making that very clear every year.
Yeah. Yes and no. I mean, okay, so they're taking me as the person out of it, but my phone still has an ID.
Yeah, but
so
remember,
as I go through and I buy songs and I listen to certain things, they are keeping track because they're going to start making suggestions to me as to what they think I should get next. It will
to you from what they've said, and you're right. This isn't whether or not you trust them or not. But from what they've said and what they've shown from the developers that know the code of the software is, you're right. It will store what you bought. I mean, they have to have a catalog of what you bought because you can re-download it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But as far as a profile for you that they're going to use for advertising, they do not do. And any suggestions, you're right, they need to know what you had before, but are sent anonymously. So they don't know who you are. You would have which is what they always put in all this stuff. It sends an anonymous Siri ID, or this stuff is kept on the device or in your iCloud encrypted account. So yes, they need to know what you've done or purchased or liked before if you want the suggestions aspect of it, but they're not doing it from this is Matt Swinehart's profile and let's sell it to advertisers and other companies. They've never done that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And for some people don't care about that, but I do.
Well, I mean, think about all these apps, though. You buy these apps, and these people are so hungry for your Facebook information.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it may not be Apple that's making the apps.
Oh, right.
But it's on their app store.
Exactly. Facebook doesn't give a shit. They want to give out your profile to everybody under the sun.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, in my opinion. They showed off some really cool AR stuff I wasn't expecting. AR kit for developers. Now you can actually use the advanced machine learning and the processors and the advanced GPUs in these devices to make augmented reality apps. And the demos they showed were cool.
Stuff, yeah, that was really cool.
I mean, imagine
when I first started playing Pokemon Go, I played it in the augmented reality thing.
Yeah,
and it wasn't great.
But with this
because
implementation,
there's times it'd be like underneath me, and you're like trying to find the orientation.
Yeah, it didn't work that well. It was cool, but not if you move the phone a lot. Now, if they use this framework, my guess is it would look as good as it did with that demo, which is cool. But I get excited about the future of this because, I mean, I just think about travel, trying to figure out where you're going and holding up the phone. And when you're looking at the building over there, it highlights like it's hovering in the air, the name of the restaurant and how expensive it is, or directions with an arrow that's hovering. That looks like it's hovering out there that tells you right where to go. This is going to be
exactly
big.
Yeah, walking direction.
Yeah,
it's like I need to get to this store in Mall of America.
Yeah,
how do I do that? And you can hold your phone up, and it's like, oh, I got to go this way.
Yeah, and I know the biggest stuff for AR right now is either Pokemon Go or people putting whiskered noses and bunny ears and taking pictures with it and thinking that's just the most amazing thing under the sun. Yeah, exactly. But this is going to be so much bigger than the implementations than little parlor tricks. But that was cool. Yeah. Okay, then they showed off First of all, a new iPad Pro, which is replacing the 9.7 inch. It's basically about the same size, just barely a little bit bigger, but more screen real
10
estate.
and a half.
Yeah, exactly. So if I was going to get an iPad Pro, that's the one I would definitely get. Is the 10.5. Obviously, they don't sell the 9.7 anymore, but it's kind of interesting when they first started showing the price, and I'm like, man, $650 for an iPad. I remember the days when it used to start at 500. Then I had to catch myself and think, no, they still have the regular line of iPad, and it now starts at $329.
400. Yeah. Is it $329? I think it's $399, but yeah.
No, it's in the. I think it's in the 300. Here, let me pull it up. Let's see.
If they have they relaunched the iPad.
Yeah, the regular line
at the
now
9.7
starts. Hold to come to me.
Is it $329? I think you might be right.
Let's find out. We wouldn't want to become one of those fake news sites out there.
No doubt.
Yeah, $329. So the regular iPad.
What the president's been talking about.
Regular iPads are now $329. That's how much minis used to be. And that's for a full-fledged iPad, which I still use as my primary device. And this device is 3 years old, and it screams fast. And I'm talking, I do multitasking, multiple windows, picture-in-picture video that I'm moving around. My primary device is my iPad. The only thing I use the computer for anymore is basically video editing. That's it. And if we'll get to that. But so now when I started thinking about that, so the regular iPad line, I don't need to worry about it. It's still there. It's just much cheaper. $329 for a very capable device. You don't really need a Pro unless you want the pen, and you need some serious power behind it. Because, again, I'm using the Air 2, which is older than this $300 model, and it still screams with multiple apps on the screen at once. No problem. Yeah. But they did announce the new iPad Pro. Very fast processor. What was it, like 8-core GPUs in these things?
They're ridiculous.
Yeah, my God. And start at 64 gigs of memory and then go up to 256 or 512.
Yeah. Yeah, do you remember? I remember when the tablet PCs came out.
The old Windows
ones? Because we were just
ones?
ending college.
Yeah, the old Windows ones.
We were just graduating from college, so back in 2002, 2001, 2002, they're like, we're going to start making these tablet PCs.
Mm-hmm.
And effectively what they were laptop computers.
Yeah.
With screens either on both sides or a screen you could turn around and lay down.
With the exact same Windows operating system. You just had a pen.
Yeah, they had the single touch screen that you could do something with.
Yeah.
And those were like $2,500 to get one.
Right.
It was ridiculous how expensive they were.
Yep.
And then we're bitching even about a $699 price tag.
Well, my God, for like
on that
less than $1,000, you could have half a gigabyte of storage on something that blows most laptops away. Like the reason that my now that we have this, well, actually, let's finish up because I keep forgetting. There's all these points I want to hit to. Then I want to come back to why I think it's a replacement.
Okay.
So the power is just ridiculously sick. 120 hertz now refresh rate, and it's adaptive. So it can slow down if it needs to, if the screen is static, if it's not moving to save on battery life.
That's huge for battery life.
You still get 10-hour battery life on this thing, which is true. Again, I get this. My iPad lasts all day, and I mean using it all day, video and everything. Awesome machines. The pencils.
Have you ever taken one apart? Sorry to get off topic.
No, that's okay. I haven't.
So if you've ever seen what the actual insides of an iPad looks like. The majority of it
is
batteries.
Yep. The logic board is really small.
There's 4, 5, 6 batteries, huge batteries in there.
You know what's funny is there's a reason it's that size too. Like for example, when the first iPad Pro came out, I think last year, the big 12.9 inch, and they have the 4 speakers, 2 on each side, and everyone's asking, why don't you put a bigger battery in there? They legally can't. You're only allowed to have so much battery in a device, or else the FCC will not let you take it on a plane. Isn't that weird?
That's insane.
Yeah, but anyway, these things are powerhouses, and most of the stuff I do on my iPad, a lot of stuff over the past couple of years, well, I've only had it for about a year and a half, that I've done that I could do on the computer, but I could also do there that I've tried. Now that I start to do it on my iPad, I don't want to come back to the computer to do it because it takes longer and it's more of a pain in the butt. It does stuff faster. But we're going to get to that. Let's finish up iOS 11 for like what, the ninth time I keep saying it.
Sorry, yes. Finish up.
Woo! So then they also announced all the stuff that iOS 11 is going to bring to the iPad, which is the biggest jump they've made since the introduction of the iPad. This thing is starting to finally look, even though they've been saying it for years, and everyone, and myself included, said, whatever, starting to look like a computer replacement. First of all, brand new dock. Man, it looks like the Mac operating system. You got the dock on the bottom with all your apps. Yep. Multitasking that is vastly improved. Hovering, just like the current slider you can now hover it on top of the app. You still have the split screen that you can do, but the drag and drop is huge between apps. Yeah. That is so big.
Yeah, the fact you can do it two hands.
Having this kind of interface, and now that the user interface of multi-touch has matured over the past, what has it been, 10 years now, to the point that they've figured out how to do this so it's not confusing. Can you imagine, like you were talking about this, Matt, doing drag and drop, and imagine editing video on this, moving stuff over, changing transitions, zooming stuff in. Yeah. This thing is becoming so powerful now with these updates. Scan inside, PDFs, markup, the Files app. Now you can finally get to your files and have them ordered, and it's going to work with also any third-party provider like Dropbox, Microsoft, Google Drive, all that stuff. So you can finally get to your files. One of the biggest holdouts that people would complain about it not being a full-fledged.
The multitask was huge for me.
Oh, yeah, big time. Now that I think about it, the only thing left that would hold me back from getting an iPad Pro instead of a computer, and I still might do it because I can still, this is not a MacBook Pro. It's a MacBook Air. Can I still edit video on it? Yeah. I don't need a really powerful PC. It would do it faster. But that thing screams and can iPad Pro can edit they said 3 4K video streams simultaneously. It's so efficient, and now that Apple's been doing their own A chips for years, they are screaming past everybody. So now you're starting to get, not for everything, but for like if you're going to do 3D modeling for like a Pixar movie, of course you need a computer. If you're going to do serious video editing, so far anyway, you need to have a computer to do that if you're going to do production for TV programming. For what we're doing, it's starting to get to the point that if they could just get Final Cut Pro running on an iPad, I'm now done with this. What else? I wouldn't need anything left. That's it. Because everything else is faster on there. Here's what's funny. The Files app that's going to be in iOS 11, they don't currently have, but there are third-party ones you have. I've got one called File Browser. So I can take my files, move them over, copy, paste, rename, all the stuff you normally do in a file browser on an operating system. But you can also do all your network browsing just like you can in a computer, so I can see all the attached network computers. I can log into my NAS. I can move files that way, do all that stuff. It is exponentially faster on the iPad than it is on this computer. Or any computer. Really? Yeah, because I can't do it right now because we're using it for the FaceTime, but I actually did a test after I watched this keynote yesterday. And I'm like, let's go into a computer. Now, this is solid state and fast. It's not intensive processor-wise to go browse and file share. That's something that's just go check this stuff, index it, and let's go. And it took a few seconds. Okay, here's the computer logged in. It only took a few seconds. Okay, don't get me wrong. That's not a lot. As soon as I log into the iPad and I go into the app, and the app's open, and I click on the thing, okay, I'm in. It's just literally that fast. Moving stuff over with your finger is quicker than using an indirect input like a mouse or a trackpad and moving stuff over. It's just when you get used to using your fingers and it's efficient and the user interface is done well, like you're talking about, this multitasking, drag and drop.
Yeah.
Do you start to see this being as maybe like, I know that you're thinking down the road of getting, that's what when you were bringing this up, should I get a Mac Pro or should I get an iMac? Before the conference, I would have said, just get a MacBook Pro that can do everything for you. Now, I have no intention of buying another laptop. I would get a 4K iMac that's good enough for any kind of video editing I would need to do. Yeah. More processing power than I would need for anything that I do. And then my primary computer would be a iPad Pro.
Yeah, it's hard. It's bang for your buck.
Mm-hmm.
The iMac has it right now.
What would you lean towards right now?
The only thing that puts me off of the iMac right now is the portability.
Mm-hmm.
of having a laptop computer.
Right. That's the whole
If
thing.
I don't always want to work at my desk.
Right. See, that's the whole
nice
thing is you don't currently have something portable, so you would need to get something portable anyway.
Yes.
I already have this, which will be fine for anything if I need to run an actual computer for years to come, which is going to be very few and far between. But I would still just stick with my iPad Air too. But I don't know. So like if your next computer, what do you think it'll be?
See, I don't know because I've started to build my office.
Mm-hmm.
I built it with the intention that I was going to have a MacBook docked with a separate monitor and keyboard and everything like that.
Right.
But I don't know now.
Mm-hmm.
Now that the iMac is becoming its own thing,
Yep,
and more powerful, I mean, it could very well be that.
Well, you know what?
I love the look of the iMacs.
Yeah, they're gorgeous. And the screens?
Yeah.
Because you can get like a MacBook Pro and then plug it into any monitor at home, but when you're used to looking at an Apple screen, it kind of sucks not. But then if you get a bigger screen with your MacBook Pro, then it's not as portable. It's like this whole catch-22 thing.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I went towards, I'm definitely probably, God, I just wish they could get Final, because at some point, someday, and they're already working on this, who knows when they're going to release it, we're going to have Final Cut Pro or Adobe Premiere Pro running on an iPad. We know we're going to get that.
Yeah.
How great was that demo that one guy showed off of using that photo editing tool to make the Pirates of the Caribbean movie on the iPad?
The trailer or the poster or whatever it was?
That looked like a full version of Photoshop equivalent.
Yeah, I can't remember what that was called.
Infina something.
The third-party app.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, just seeing that, I'm like, man, we're finally at the point. Adobe, get off your ass. You can now put full Photoshop on this on the Pro at least with the pen, and we could have everything. I mean, if you're going to use Photoshop and you could use it on a 12.9-inch iPad Pro with the pen and have all your layers and everything there with touch and move stuff around, or do it on your computer with the mouse, which would you rather do? I don't think it's even close there.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I mean, and like you got to think about the industry too, is everything's moving to tablets where they're doing their stuff in front of them for their drawing and their rendering, but they do have a workstation that's attached to.
Right. Here's what I was saying that we could actually compare is obviously you're going to want to have something for power, whether it's your device, whether it's a desktop or a portable, but you need something with power that's going to give you the options to do some of the stuff you want to do, whether it be video editing, computer intensive processes, whatever it is. So we know that that's a must. And you'd like to have some kind of option for portability where you can take something with you. Those are basically your two primary things, right?
Yeah.
So you've got the MacBook Pro option, which could technically do both. You wouldn't have as big a screen in front of you to do the stuff, which I know you'd like, but technically you could just deal with another monitor you could plug into. But let's actually do a cost comparison and see what that would be. So if you did a MacBook Pro, would you want to go 13 or 15 inch? Now, before I say this, obviously, when you do buy this, we'd probably look for something that was refurbished, maybe like the 2015 model. I'm just going to do direct price comparisons of what's out right now and available that we would look for, whether it was refurbished or last year's model anyway. But let's just stick with the models that are new and compare them directly to directly. So would you rather go 13 or 15 inch if you were going to go Pro?
Cost-wise, I would go 13.
13 inch? Okay, cool. Touch bar, no touch bar?
I'd like to stay away from the touch bar.
Okie dokie. So let's say you just went for, well, now would you go any kind of upgrades, or like is 8 gig of memory and 128 gig solid state drive enough for you?
It would be enough because buying an external drive wouldn't cost that much.
And if you're going to do video editing, you want to do it on a separate drive anyway.
Yeah.
So let's say that was $1,300 for you. Now let's say if you were going to get an iMac, which one would you go with? 21.5 or 27 inch?
Probably just a 21.5.
21.5 inch. Starts at 2.3 gigahertz dual core i5, which, hold on a minute, is faster than the MacBook Pro. No, it's the same as it's the same processor in the MacBook Pro. Okay. Same processor as the MacBook Pro.
Okay. Same
8 gigabyte storage, and actually you then have a terabyte Fusion, or I think it's a Fusion, but you have a terabyte hard drive. Maybe you could change that to a solid state.
Yeah, change it to solid state because I think that's where the price starts to elevate.
Right. Let's see.
On the iMac. So just change it to the lowest SSD.
Okay. Or how about a Fusion drive? Fusion drive means you get a big chunk of it solid state for the operating system and the stuff of it uses most, and then the rest is spinning platter for the stuff that it doesn't matter.
That's the 1 terabyte option.
Yep. But
like
then you'll have like a bunch, or you could go with the, well, I guess it's the same price to, oh, wait a minute.
$256.
It's $100 more for a terabyte Fusion drive, which means the whole operating system is running off of the solid state, plus the most frequently used applications that you do run off of the solid state. Okay. That's $100 more, or for $200 more, you could get a 256 gigabyte solid state.
I would still want the solid state.
Okay. Rest of the stuff. Okay, so that is $12.99. So it's the same. Well, wait a minute. What did we say? Yeah, same price. So iMac, whether
we added 200.
That's true. We did add. Yep, we did add.
So it's $14.99.
Yep.
But just for fairness.
No. I'm sorry. With the $200 total. This is with those upgrades is $12.99.
Really?
Yeah. No, it starts at $10.99.
Yeah.
For the new one. So no, that would be for what you're talking about. You'd have well, man. But now we're not comparing apples to apples.
Give me the 1.5 with the 4K Retina display, like the laptop would have. Because I think that
I see what you're saying.
1099 one doesn't have the 4K.
Yeah, you can't get 4K on a 21.5. You have to get a 27-inch.
No, it's the 5K. You can't get it. You can get the 4K in a 21.5.
Both.
Are you on the Apple Store?
Yeah.
Because I looked at it today.
Really? Hold on a minute.
So it's $12.99 for the 4K iMac base.
God damn it! Come on. Buy. Don't tell me about it. Just give me my. Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. You're right. You can get a. Oh no. Okay. Yeah. 4K at 21.5. You're right. I'm sorry. I thought you had to get 27. Let me select that one. Sorry. I thought I did. Okay.
It's all right.
This is 4K. 3 gigahertz processor, much faster than the MacBook Pro. 8 gigs RAM.
Yep.
Terabyte serial. Hold on a minute. Let me see if I can upgrade that. Same cost. $200 more. Wish it would tell me Fusion Drive. Wish it told us how much. Oh, so the Fusion Drive has 32 gigabytes of SSD.
Which is pretty much the operating system.
No, the operating system is only about 6 or 7.
I'd probably still just go with the SSD.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Yeah. So 256. Okay, so yeah, it'd be if you wanted a 21.5-inch iMac Retina 4K with 256 gigabyte solid state drive. Wow, that comes with discrete graphics too. Jesus, dude, this would be a freaking powerhouse. And I don't think there's any way you can not choose that. It's standard. Shit.
It's $14.99, right?
Holy crap. Yeah. Yeah, Radeon Pro 555 with 2 gigs of video memory alone. That's $14.99. Yeah. Versus if you had 128 gigabyte storage on the Mac.
Well, update the
MacBook Pro.
The Mac to
the same specs.
Or the Pro to the same specs.
Okay. 256 SSD. We've probably lost any viewers that are still watching this.
Yeah. You probably just edit this out.
Yeah. Screw that. There's got to be at least 1 or 2 people that no, I really need to know what's Matt going to choose. Why? Oh.
I have a feeling they're both $14.99.
Yep, $14.99. Except you'd have a 2.3 gigahertz dual core i5 on the MacBook Pro, whereas on the iMac you'd have a 3.0 gigahertz quad core. So there's no way really to do apples to apples there. But it looks like for what you would want from either one of those two, which is what's really more
price-wise, it would be the same.
It would be about $1,500. Because what I was thinking about doing is, for myself, is I'd like to get a 27-inch. I wouldn't need it though, but I was thinking of because I forgot you could get 4K at 21.5.
Yeah.
Because maybe I would just do that then. I was thinking, well, shoot, if I'm going to spend like $1,700 or $1,800 on a
workstation.
Yeah, workstation, then I'm definitely just going with the iPad because my iPad Air 2 is still working great. And I don't even know if I would need the iPad Pro then at that point, because if I've got the powerhouse on here and I've got the portability for everything else, fucking Apple.
It's tough.
You know, they just make you want everything. I don't know. Long story short, they are starting to get to the point where you're never going to have everybody agree, but a lot more people, I think myself included, maybe you, that iPad is starting to look more and more like a laptop replacement. If they could get Final Cut Pro running on it, and now you could get half a terabyte of solid state storage on there for less than $1,000.
Yeah. Who needs a terabyte? Yeah. Who needs 512?
Well, if you're going to edit video.
On your iPad.
Well, no, but you need the room for it to render it there before it can copy it to someone else in real time.
Think about all those people that are going to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they're tired of running out of space on their 64.
Yeah.
Because of all their photos and apps.
Yeah, but I've got 64 gigs and I don't even use half of it, and I have lots, because now all the photos is automatic. That if it starts filling it up, it puts them all up on the cloud and has just a little thumbnail version that stores on your device. So that's
every app in the App Store.
Yeah, if you download lots and lots of apps, yeah, that's true. Maybe that's the case too. But man, I don't know that. And it's so freaking portable, and that keyboards have worked with it for years, and the multitasking and doing stuff for, I don't know. I think once you get used to that, just be
and that new flick thing that they have on there too. I think that's going to be huge.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really see it now, but I understand the bringing it down, because I hate on my phone having to click that thing down at the bottom to bring up numbers.
Oh, to bring up the numbers and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I could, if on the iPad I could just do it where I'm flicking down and it's taking those.
Little stuff like that just like, man, I never would have thought of that. That's awesome.
Give me my shift key.
Cool. And then the last thing that they went through, our prediction was hopefully to get a series speaker, something that's going to be like an Amazon Echo but better. You are the one that specifically brought up Sonos and multi-room stuff, and actually Apple didn't do either what we talked about. They did a hybrid of both. So they're not making something to compete with Amazon or Google Home. They're making something that is a Sonos replacement that also does what Amazon and Google Home does. Yeah. And at first I'm thinking, man, $349 for the series speaker. And then I had to remind myself, hold on a minute. This is not competing with the $200 Amazon Echo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this isn't Alexa that answers questions.
No, this is
plays crappy music.
Apple always does the premium one first, and they do the light model later. They have the Mac, then they have the Mac Mini. They have the iPad, then they have the iPad Mini. I still 100% believe that sometime next year we're going to get a smaller HomePod that is not going to be expensive, that is not going to be as high end a speaker. But tell you what, that thing, like, I have no intention.
Mini.
HomePod Mini, yeah, I do. I think we're going to see that.
I don't doubt it.
It looks like a piece of furniture. It has that Apple aesthetic way more than Amazon or Google's device. I read a couple of articles I agreed with when they said Google Home looks like an air freshener. And we don't know what Amazon Echo looks like.
Looks like a Glade.
Yeah. But they're bare minimum enough to just get the voice there. Apple didn't go that route. They went very high fidelity. What was it, like 7 individually driven tweeters? It's spatial.
Yeah, I think it was 6 or 7.
Yeah, 6 or 7 tweeters.
7.
High quality woofer. Six microphone array.
6 microphones. Yeah, I think it was 7 tweeters. Yeah.
Spatially aware.
Yeah. That's pretty huge, actually.
Can actually detect the scene around and how to change where to aim audio and stuff like that. If you get multiple of them, they'll work in tandem. And it looks like
I wanted to hear one.
Mm-hmm.
Not just this little kind of crappy example he gave. Maybe we will at the next conference when they talk about the iPhone, that they'll roll this out. But
well, it's hard to see because
I wanted to hear it.
Even if they did that and we got to watch the stream, that's not the same of hearing it in person. You're right. For all the people that were at the event afterwards on all the blogs, that they said that this thing sounds amazing. Like, this is it's $350 for a reason. This is a Sonos replacement. Sonos has got to be shaking in their damn boots, because
Well, and it has Siri.
Yeah, it not only has Siri.
Sonos doesn't have Siri.
But here's something now that the Echo, the Echo, yeah, that's what it's called. The Amazon Echo and Google Home don't have.
Yep.
You can get the Echo for $200, or you can get the tiny little disc Echo Dot for $50.
For 50.
And put a whole bunch of them in your room. But one of the issues that of people that have that said it's nice being able to have multiple in rooms, but now when you say something, you'll have 2 or 3 of them light up at the same time, and it gets confusing. Because these things are spatially aware and recognize each other. Let's say you had 2 in the living room, and that's what you were. For anyone that doesn't have a home theater setup, I might seriously consider just getting 2 of these and letting it do their things because they talk to each other automatically.
Yeah.
You know, say you got 2 in the living room or just 1, whatever, and then you got 1 in the hallway upstairs and then you got 1 in the bedroom. You don't need to worry about them overhearing each other or them repeating who's saying what because they're spatially aware. So if I'm walking through the hall and I say, hey, Siri, turn the thermostat to 62, I don't need to worry about the one in the bedroom and the hallway repeating the same commands. I didn't even think about that, but that's actually a big deal as this becomes more proliferated out there.
Yeah. No, certainly. And I can't remember what they referred to it as, but to be able to set like modes, like to be able to say, hey, Siri, I'm leaving, lock down the house.
That's called HomeKit scenes. Yeah, you can program presets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The scenes. Yeah.
Yep.
That would be awesome. Because as I'm walking out in the morning, I'm like, hey, Siri, I'm leaving, lock up the house. If I had Bluetooth on my locks and my lights, I mean, just out.
Yeah. This is something that I know it's not what you and I wanted.
It's Back to the Future type stuff.
Yeah, and I still think we're going to get a light version that's not $350 that isn't as high quality of a speaker at some point in the future. But for anyone, so it's not what we were hoping for at this point. But I think that for anyone that's looking into getting a home speaker system, like surround sound system, that doesn't have one yet, I start to think, man, you really might want to consider this.
Yeah, I want to know what kind of third parties it can link with.
What do you mean, third parties?
Because there have to be additional components.
I don't understand.
Yes, you have a sub and you have tweeters.
Well, that's what I mean.
But if you want full 5.1 digital surround,
you're right. You wouldn't have the individual.
You're not getting it.
You're right. That's not what I mean. I don't mean that you can plug this into another speaker system, although I'm sure maybe you could. What I'm saying is, instead of setting up the full 5.1 individual actual speakers, having 2 of these and let them do their like Bose acoustic wave thing where they generate the sound for you without that setup.
Yeah, because that's what I was thinking too. Was the Bose, and that's what I started kind of comparing price with.
Right.
Was the
then it
Bose
starts
wave
looking
speaker, the
really good
unit.
for the money.
Yeah, because it's $50 under the price of a brand new Bose speaker. And I can't talk to a Bose speaker.
Well, isn't the Bose acoustic wave machine, isn't that the thing that fills out sound for surround sound better than multiple speaker setups from one device? Isn't that like over $1,000?
No, for the small unit, it's like $400.
Okay.
But there's other companies that make them. I've seen them as much as $1,200.
Sure, but this is $350 plus then you got the Siri thing in there too. And you know what I also thought was cool? Now that it's got this new AirPlay 2 protocol, because we AirPlay stuff all the time. We have Apple TVs all over, so if I've got something, I can AirPlay this whole screenshot to the Mac or to the Apple TV and anywhere in the house anytime I want. I can do the same thing with the iPhone, the iPad. So we use AirPlay pretty frequently. Now that you can actually tell it where to play something, that's something we talked about for predictions and hopes, how cool that would be, right? Put this on the TV downstairs. They've already said that Apple TV could be a destination to play someplace as a speaker. So like if I had a HomePod upstairs in the living room and I said, hey Siri, play some Britney Spears in the living room, or play Madonna in on the downstairs Apple TV, it could do that. Here's what that leads me to believe. They didn't announce an Apple TV, a new one. What if the Apple TV that's going to come out this fall, because I'm assuming these current Apple TVs can already be destinations, you can tell it to play somewhere. What if the new Apple TV is not just an updated Apple TV, but it's also that thing we were talking about where it could be also a Siri speaker without the high-end audio quality also?
Yeah. Yeah, like Apple Home.
Yeah.
TV, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, let's say you got the Apple TV hooked up to the TV, plus it also has its own moderate speaker so even if the TV's off, you can still hear it talk back to you or play music, and then you've got your HomePods everywhere else. Now it's starting to make more sense.
Yeah, I mean it's almost like a takeover.
Yeah. But we're not mad.
Yeah. It's not Skynet. It's
Right.
Apple.
Yeah, we invited them in. Okay, we fed them. All right.
It's like vampires. Yeah, if you invite them into your house,
Right.
then all those things don't work on them.
Yeah.
No, no, that would actually be cool. Like if that level of integration and cooperation worked with the new Apple TV,
Mm-hmm.
and with that, I mean, it seems like it's just one of those things. They should do it. It's too there
Because
for them not
they're
to
talking
take
about
advantage
this
of
in
it.
their R&D meetings all the time. How can we do this stuff? And they're very meticulous and very careful and playing every demo to the T and very specific about every word they say and don't say. And when you think about some people are going to see this and think, oh, it's a big old speaker and it's got Siri in it. $350? Hell no. Play the long game. They put out something that's high quality for a certain market because they start with the premium first. If you start with the mini model first and then go to the premium, that's just stupid marketing. But they're playing, well, we got this whole new protocol called AirPlay 2. Well, people are used to AirPlay. They're not going to think AirPlay 2 is that much more. AirPlay 2 is complete. It's more advanced that you can actually dictate and route stuff with your voice. That's a big deal. Then we'll go ahead and put out the Apple TV next generation one that's also a Siri speaker into the fall. I mean, hey, let's go ahead and start laying the H.265 4K programming stuff in our devices now. Then in the fall, we have this come out. It just feels like they're setting themselves up for a huge fall where this stuff is all going to come together. And the people that are like, Apple really blew it, $350 to do an Amazon Echo thing. That's not what they're doing. You play the long game. Think about this. Analyze it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When I saw this, I was excited. Saw the price, and I wasn't completely put off by the price,
but it was more than what we thought.
I knew it wouldn't be something I bought the first day it's available.
Sure.
Making it $350, it priced it out of me being an early adopter.
Yep. And you know what?
But it didn't price me out of being somebody that gets it.
Sure. You know what's funny is when I watched it again, it's funny because the second time I watched it, they really made it clear from the first slide that Phil Schiller showed. What did they show on the screen? Here's a Sonos plus Alexa.
Yeah.
They made it very clear we're not just competing with Google Home or Amazon Echo. This is a high quality. And what was 2/3 of the presentation about this HomePod was all just about music. It wasn't assistant.
Have you priced any of that Sonos stuff?
It's in the mid $300 range, isn't it?
No, if you want the sound bar, it's $699. If you want a subwoofer, it's $699. If you want satellite speakers, that's when you get a break. Those are only $399.
So you could literally,
at that point you have 5.1. If you want to go to 7 and get 2 more speakers, that's another $400.
You could literally deck your entire house out with HomePods, and you would be spending less than half what you do with Sonos.
Yeah, I mean Sonos is fantastic. I do not.
It is great.
I don't want to downplay what they do. They are fantastic. So you buy the sound bar, you got 2.1.
Mm-hmm.
You add the subwoofer, and it takes it up to 3.1 or whatever. But at that point, you're $1,400 invested in it if you're buying this stuff new.
And more importantly, I can't say play my workout mix in that room and it just do it.
No, you can't. I mean, it has an app on the iPhone.
I've seen it and I've used it. It's
so
cool.
You can change the sound quality
and
some of the things, and you can, if you have them in multiple rooms in your house, you can say play here, play there. But content-wise, it's controlled by another device.
Right.
You have a receiver or you have something else that's putting content to that to play.
What's amazing too is I don't think people realize, because we've got a few Apple TVs here, and then I also have this Airport Express, which you can use as a mini router, a travel router, plug it in internet, broadcast your own temporary little Wi-Fi hotspot. You can plug in speakers to it and have it be like an access point that any Apple device can see it and then route audio to that device through AirPlay. So whenever we have family over or want to play some music on any device, a Mac, someone's iPad, someone's iPhone, you can literally go up to and just say play to that speaker right there without going into third-party apps, right? It's just built in.
Yeah.
These HomePods that work with AirPlay work the same way. So if I had them, whether it was one or multiple in a room, you can literally tell them, don't output the audio from my Apple TV when I'm watching movies to the TV. Just send it to those, and now you have instant surround sound or coming to speakers from another area with no wiring and no setup. It's automatic.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Huh, pretty cool. So not what either one of us was thinking it would be. Shocker. Apple never throws us for a curveball. But pretty cool device. You know, I mean, the sexy as hell. And I love that opening ad with the music. Apple always seems to get the right music, the right tone, the right cinematography on there. I don't know. Pretty good WWDC overall. What would you say is probably some of your highlights or your favorite things that we got from this year's conference?
Though I will never own one.
Well, no, not just the HomePod. I mean the whole conference.
No, the iMac Pro.
Oh, right.
From a whole conference standpoint, that thing is sexy as hell.
Yeah.
I was I look at that thing and I'm like, oh, yeah. If I won the lotto, I'd make sure my name is one of the first in line to get it, even though I would probably never use it for its intended function.
Yeah, but who cares? I mean, that would just be so much fun.
It would, just to have it, show it off.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me is like owning a Lamborghini.
And then you're playing solitaire on it.
Yeah. Look, I can play Minesweep on here and there's no lag. Getting really good at it. As long as there's only 22 blocks.
Anybody want to play Age of Empires 2?
Yeah, I got Civ around here somewhere. I think I got the CD for it.
Dude, can you imagine the resolution I could run Quake 2 on this?
That was the big winner for me because it's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see the upgrade of the iMac.
Yeah.
I wanted to see it.
Apple, get back into showing us that you do the Lamborghini still.
Yeah, but everything else, I mean, I loved. Obviously, I'm with you. I don't own an Apple Watch. Not something I got excited about. I don't own an Apple Pen. Not something I really cared about. It is good to see that they are developing that stuff for that and continuing to progress. But the big winner was the iMac, whether it's the regular iMac or the iMac Pro.
Yep. For me, it was definitely iOS 11 on the iPad. That is, I cannot wait.
Yeah, that's tough.
That was such a big leap.
Good.
I think that we all know, Steve Jobs even said this the first year in the iPad. Computers are eventually going to be like trucks. They're still going to be around. They'll always have a utilitarian purpose for what they can do. But the vast, vast majority of people are going to drive cars or be using what we call tablets. Because, tablets can't do this. And he goes, well, that's just a question of the software getting better and the maturing of the interface to figure out how do we do this stuff. And to me, looking back 20 or 30 years from now, one of the most definitive moments of showing that the tablet can be not just a thing that I browse the web most of the time on and watch most of my TV on, just being a consumption device, but a full-fledged productivity device of what we call a computer of the future, to me is this what they just did here with iOS 11. I think that's going to be a big divergent, and I cannot wait. I'll probably do the beta and put it on it. I've learned my lesson. I've done betas on phones and tablets for years, and they're so buggy at first. And I'll wait until at least beta 5, which is usually the last or the second to last beta before it comes out. But I cannot wait to get this on that iPad Air 2 and play around with the multitasking and the drag and drop, because this is going to be awesome.
Just go get you a new iPad.
But this one works so great.
And go through with it.
It's still lightning fast. Like I said, it screams and it blows this out of the water. I don't understand why, but it's probably just the modern operating system. But I can't wait for that too. Cool. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what did you think about WWDC 2017? What was your favorite part of it? Or what do you wish that we would have gotten that we didn't get? Let us know what you think in the comments below. This has been Fractured Focus's reaction to WWDC 2017. Don't forget you can watch regular episodes of Fractured Focus Monday through Thursdays. We post a topic of the show each day of the week and attempt to entertain you with our semi-witty banner and our constant going off topic. I don't even know how long this one went. Apparently,
it's got to be a 55-minute show.
It's not regular that you'll see us pricing something out for about 10 minutes, but it's also not unheard of. You're going to get that from time to time here, too. Don't forget, you can always check us out at youtube.com/fracturedfocus. With that, until next time.